gentlemen, I'm General Retired Rick Hillier. For the last several years, I've been involved in this incredible initiative, something that I believe in from my very heart, called Valor in the Presence of the Enemy. And I'm here tonight with our leader in that initiative, Bruce Moncur, and with two members of our board, Gordon Henderson and Mick Gzwoski, who have all had the same emotional attachment, the same feeling that what we are trying to achieve here in valor in the presence of the enemy is right for our nation and right for those men and women who have served us in uniform. And what we seek to do, what our mission aims to achieve, is to have an independent review of the awards and commendations given to Canadian soldiers and sailors and aviators and special forces troopers to see if they're appropriate for their service, their sacrifice, and for our nation. And what we recommend is that we start with an independent review with one soldier, Private Jess Larochelle. We believe that the richness of detail that has come to our attention since his actions in Afghanistan in 2006 would warrant such a review. And he, the winner of the Star of Military Valor, our second highest award for courage in face of the enemy, should be awarded the Victoria Cross. But at the very least, we feel that an independent review of his actions would be appropriate. And once that is complete, potentially the review of others throughout our history to ensure that they have been appropriately awarded for valor in the presence of the enemy. On the 14th of October, 2006, Jess Larochelle was valorous in the presence of the enemy in Kandahar, Afghanistan. Over many hours under attack from a brutal and a violent and persistent enemy, he stood his ground alone in an observation post, supporting his platoon from the flank with machine gun fire until he ran out of ammunition, saving only the last 100 rounds in case of a final assault. Wounded in the first seconds of that fight by a rocket-propelled grenade that exploded over his head, detaching the retina in his right eyeball, causing him to bleed from the ears, and throwing him back against the brutally hard mud walls and breaking a vertebrae in his back. In extreme pain by himself, he fought on. Once he was out of machine gun ammunition, he picked up the disposable rocket launchers called the M72, and one at a time, exposing himself again to aimed fire from the enemy who were attacking him, aimed those M72s one at a time at the Taliban who were trying to attack, taking them out of the action. After many hours of fighting, there was a bit of a calm. His platoon commander came rushing forward to see what had gone on in that observation post. And as he said later, when I looked at the observation post and saw how it was destroyed, I thought nobody can be alive in there. And all of a sudden a head popped up, and it was Private Jess Larochelle, that 20-year-old private from Nipissing, Ontario, who looked at his platoon commander and said, "Sir, I'll provide covering fire, come on in." Platoon commander went in, talked to Jess about the fight, how it was going to continue, and said, "I'll replace you. You've been through enough up here." Jess looked at him and said, "Sir, no, don't do that. I know it's tough up here, but I'll stay. I know what the situation is. I'm prepared to handle it." And so the platoon commander left. Jess stayed on in his post and continued to fight. Later on, he was reinforced by his platoon warrant officer, and they stayed there throughout the night, continuing to fight into the next morning. During the fight, two of his platoon mates had been killed by the attack, and later the next morning, they were being evacuated, their bodies taken back to Kandahar Airfield. The platoon was replaced at the position, and Jess, along with his battle buddies, went back to Kandahar to do the ramp ceremony to say goodbye to his best friend, Private Blake Williamson, and help carry his body onto the aircraft, bringing him back to Canada. It was only after that fight was over, only after the ramp ceremony where he got to say goodbye and pay his respects to his best friend, that Jess Larochelle said to one of the medics, "I'm really hurting here." And upon investigation, of course, it was found that that retina of his right eye was detached. His eardrums were still bleeding because they had been shattered by the blast of so many rounds going off close to him. The vertebrae in his back was snapped. And over the next days and weeks, in a painful process, he was evacuated to Canada and continued to suffer from those wounds and the post-traumatic stress that almost every soldier goes through, particularly one that's been in such violent circumstances as this over the next years. We believe that an independent review would favorably look upon Jess Larochelle and take that star of military valor and change the recommendation to the government of Canada, to our Governor General, that it be the Victoria Cross, the first one of the Canadian Victoria Crosses to be awarded to a Canadian soldier. Jess has suffered from his wounds ever since he came back from Afghanistan, ever since the 14th of October, 2006. He's gone through some tough experiences recently, and he has been carried, I think, by the support of his family and by the support of his battle buddies who served with him in Afghanistan and those who have gathered around him to make sure he's okay now back here. I'll ask Bruce Moncur if Bruce would just give us an update on Jess's condition and how he is right now. Bruce, please.
Jess has just gotten out of a surgery. His mom Anna told me that he's doing well. He's back home. He spent 2 consecutive months in the hospital, had his surgery, and now the doctors tell him he has about a 6-month recovery time. By about March, he should hopefully be on the mend. So we're gonna keep him in our thoughts and prayers, and hope that he recovers from this, and all his health is back to 100% in the coming months.
Bruce, thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, as part of our campaign, as part of our mission to get that independent review, we've started a letter writing campaign to the government of Canada, to the Prime Minister, to the Minister of National Defence, to the Minister of Veterans Affairs, and to your own Member of Parliament. And all you have to do if you want to support us, and so far 20,000 Canadians plus have, is come on to our site, Valor in the Presence of the Enemy, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. Come on to our site and you'll find there the mechanism to allow you in just a couple of very quick steps to add your name to a letter and have it automatically sent to those 4 individuals, and make your wishes known, make your beliefs known, and Valor in the Presence of the Enemy should lead to an independent recommendation, and starting with Jess Larochelle as the first individual to reappreciate what he did and whether it is worthy of the Victoria Cross, and then potentially plus there, from there, looking at other individuals who have served Canada and our nation's uniform since then. Valor in the Presence of the Enemy, letter writing campaign to the Prime Minister, Minister of Defense, Minister of Veterans Affairs, and your Member of Parliament. Come on to our sites, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and you will find it easily, and put your name in, and you will be part of that great campaign. We'll run it till the 11th of November. And this is our act of remembrance. This is our act of tribute. And this is us showing our appreciation to those individuals who've served, to make sure they have been appropriately recognized. Please support us in that. And over to one of our board of directors members, Gordon Henderson.
Well, in honor of November 11th, and in the spirit of Shots for the Soldier, I want to raise a toast to all those who've served, and say with a heartfelt sense of pride, lest us forget. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget.
Well said, Gordon. Happy Remembrance Day, everybody.